You all are here. This is so wonderful. I love you all so much. Good morning. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. All right now. We're getting ready to start. You know it's gonna be a full show, right? May the Lord watch in these Wakandan streets. Mhm. Good morning, Viola. Viola. Viola, I owe you a phone call, my sister. I know you've been sending me text messages and I'm trying to keep moving and doing the things that I have to, but I've not forgotten you. I owe you a phone call and a few others actually. So we'll go from there. I know we're expecting 91 degrees here too. 90 degrees. I turned on the air finally. I know my husband came downstairs and was like, good morning, good morning, good morning. Ah, Jesus help me. All right, let's go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Marvel, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning, Andrea, Robin, Mandy, honey. Today we're talking to David Alexander Jenkins. If he can find his way on here, I don't know if he's asleep, dead, or alive. That's 6:30. At 7 o'clock, I have Rhonda McCullough Anderson because she's the lawyer who will tell us all about our wills, our deeds, issues that we have going on in our families and try to help us there. And then at 7:30, we have Chris Rabb. Chris Rabb will be on at 7:30. So we have a full show today. Just hold on, hang on in there with me. I'm holding to my thing about not having a show on Tuesday. And quite frankly, I don't want to speak to any candidates on the day of the election because that gives them an edge, right? So let's just kind of move forward and see. The show may go longer than 8 o'clock, depending on who pops up, who wants to talk, what we're doing, how we're doing. But that's where we are. Good morning, Alexandra Jackson. Good morning. Oh, you can watch the whole show. Good morning, the wife. Good morning. Good morning. Baby Marguerite, hedge of protection around you is report the news that are engaging and inspiring this week. Big week of all the things. Remember, you come first. I do. I do remember that. So I wanted to read something to all of you. I wrote this 3 years ago, and it should be made into a label we can stick on some people. Having leadership qualities without addressing the core of your value system leads to a mess when power is placed in your hands because you don't know how to harness it in a beneficial way. A true leader remains first a servant to the folks around them. Using your power for self importance and perks only places you in the box labeled another useless, corrupt one not to be trusted. Text, check your motives. Good morning. Good morning. Listen, it's going to be a week. The elections are tomorrow. Good morning, Beatrice. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Viola. Good morning, Beatrice. Tomorrow is in Pennsylvania and in many other places around the country. We have our primary elections. If you are a Democrat or a Republican, you can vote for your particular party affiliation. If you are an independent, you will not be able to vote in the primaries. Unfortunately, so many people, elections are going to be decided on who wins in the primaries for a good majority of the time because if you win in the primaries and you have no challenger, chances are that you will become the person leading in November. And so um, that aside, there are many people who have decided they wanted no party affiliation at all, not part Republican or Democrat. And so we're in a pickle. What I'm seeing now is that some people are running on Republican or Democrat, but labeling themselves as a different kind of Democrat, as a progressive. I don't know what the different kind of Republican is at this point, but we will figure it out, right? So we're there. I am I extended the invitation to Dr. Ayla Stanford too. Once I realized that Chris Rabb wanted to come back on, because I always try to be fair. You already know that the invitation was extended to State Senator Sharif Street. That he's coming on Friday. So win, lose or draw, he'll still want to have a conversation with me, and I'd love to have the dialogue with him, because if he wins, wonderful. If he does not prevail, I still want to have a conversation with him, because he still remains our state senator right here in the state of Pennsylvania. So there's that conversation. Good morning, Monica. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So, who is your current employer, Sharon Wright? Good morning, Donna. I don't know who that is. I think David is asleep because I don't see him. I do not see him. Anyway, let me get into this conversation with you. A couple of things happened this weekend um, that I wanted to talk to you about. And when we talk about leadership, I, on Saturday, sent a message to Marguerite, and I said, Marguerite Boyd Faison, who's on here all the time. And I said, there's a free thing, because I'm looking for all the free things, right? Which is, if there are ways we can figure this out. And a friend of mine, Alexandra, has a farm near Pottstown, and they were doing this huge bonfire thing. Bonfire and conversation. So it's a potluck. You bring meals to share, and so we all, I said to Margaret, "Do you want to come with me?" She's like, "Come on." And we off we went, and I carried my dinner with me, and we went there, and they started this humongous bonfire, and we're sitting there having conversations. And Alexandra, when we asked her, "How did you become a farmer?" She was a money manager. She was managing people's money. She just didn't like it. What she got her degree in, she didn't want to do, and she bought 6 chicks and ended up now have goats. She has pigs. She has chickens all over the place. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because I want you to know you do not have to stay stuck in what your degree is. You do not have to stay stuck in what people say you're supposed to do, or what will make people feel better about you, or you sound, right for yourself. And so we sat there. I met Alexandria through Julie Nahill, a friend of mine in Abington, who I've known for God knows how long. Good morning, Essence. And Alexandria, I interviewed her on the radio show, and she talked about the farm. And then I bought a 6 month supply of eggs, and she would drop eggs at my door every single week for those months. This was during COVID in 2020. I guess she watched what was happening with me on social media when I got sick. And without asking for a dime, every week she drops a dozen eggs on my doorstep. So she sent me this message. She wants my grandchildren to come out and visit. So, Marguerite and I went out there, and we had a wonderful, wonderful time. But leading up to that, I wanted to create a salad to take with me, and I wanted a piece of salmon. So I went to the local Aldi, and as I was walking inside, there were 2 boys standing up out there with a cooler in their hands. And I watched them. I saw them when I pulled up, but I was watching them out of my peripheral, and I watched them, people walk by them. And they didn't say anything to them. I am walking up, and one of them said, "Ma'am, can I ask you a question?" And I said, "I'm just going to run in for one thing. I'll be right back." I was out within 2-3 minutes, because if you ever shop with me, I don't play around in stores. I come out, and the first thing I said, because I noticed something before I walked in, the first thing I said to them was, "Why are you out here?" And one of them said, "Good morning, Carla Hill." One of them said, "Honestly?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "We're trying to sell chocolate covered grapes." And he and I said at the same time, "Because you're hungry." They were hungry. They were hungry. Standing up outside the Aldi's, you could see, we have a saying in Jamaica, white squall was just tearing out their bellies. You could just see they were hungry. And as people were walking out, they were trying to, instead of just begging for money, they were trying to sell a product. And so I said to them, this probably is illegal for many reasons, because we don't know how the chocolate covered grapes were made, blah, 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 blah. I said, so I don't want you to get in trouble. And people probably will not buy them from you, right? So I gave them some money, and I said, go back into the Aldi's and get something to eat. I walked over, thank me, thank me. I walked away, and when I got into the car and looked in the rearview mirror, I saw them running into the Aldi's. They dropped the container. and they ran into the Aldi's to get something to eat. This is an issue. It's happening more and more. I'm seeing elderly people working, people who look like they should be enjoying their retirements. They're in the supermarkets, they're bagging, they're outside. I've seen elderly people outside supermarkets begging to load up the car so that they can make a few dollars from us. We are in a crazy time, and I don't know why we can't have the dialogue around it. So my whole weekend was supermarkets. So yesterday I went to the local Acme to buy something because I wanted to make ice cream from scratch for my husband. And when I walked inside, as soon as I walked in, I saw Pastor Coleman and his wife. Pastor Coleman is the pastor of First Baptist Church in Crestmont, and I really like him. Like he is, I've watched him. He's one of those people that have just done the work, stayed in the community, worked with his crew, with his folks, made sure they got everything done that they needed to have done. And I began engaging him and his wife in a conversation about what's going on around the country. And she said, Andrea, look, she had like 6 things in the basket. And she said, that's $100. 6 things in the basket is $100. And so we began having the dialogue around what do we need to do? How do we need to do it? What can we do to support each other? Something is terribly wrong and has been terribly wrong for a while. And while we continue to fuss and fight and rip each other apart, I am asking, I have been saying this since the first time my voice hit the airwaves. And so I'm going to keep saying it. I am asking you all to figure out how you can support each other. So it doesn't have to be a stranger on the street, but it definitely can be. You know who somebody in your family that's struggling. Don't sit there and say, oh, well, I pull myself up and I'm tired of helping them, blah, 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 blah. We are in a time where we've just got to be better, just better with each other, because it is not good out here. If you make a meal and you want to share it, call somebody and say, I made X, Y, and Z. I'd like to share it. My sons, especially the one that I see every week, when I make a meal, I called them yesterday and I said, I'm going to make some brown stew chicken. And my daughter-in-law was like, yes, I'm making the brown stew chicken so that we share meals. When I go to the market, I buy enough meat and I cook and I share with them, because I understand without them having to say, we could use the support, right? So that's where I'm going with all of this. It's just insane out here. Where have you been, my darling?
Child, this link is not working. I said I need a link. Somebody get me a link.
Oh, okay, okay, okay,
Good
okay. Good
morning.
morning, my darling. How are you?
Oh, I'm well, thank you. How are you?
So am I. I am
Mm.
well. I was just talking about us taking care of each other and sharing. Listen, we have 15 minutes.
Yeah.
This
Polls,
is this
polls, polls. Vote, vote, vote. Run, vote, polls, vote, run.
David, you have been someone that I thought was not was is pretty thoughtful in the things you say and do. And then this weekend, you're one of my 3 friends that posted that you were voting for who you were voting for, and you chose Chris Rabb.
Correct.
Um, Tell us why you chose Chris Rabb.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, I know each one of the individuals who are running for this primary. And I would say that I knew Rab the least of those three. So I need you to
Really?
understand that. I did not know Chris Rab, and I really came into this process blind. Um, Ayla is a spectacular woman who has proven that her medical acumen is ridiculous, that her ability to care for people that way is ridiculous. Um, I spoke with her privately and looked at all of the things that we're dealing with today and said to her, I think the best place for you in America would be as a Surgeon General. And I think what made me think about that even more was the response to the negativity that comes with the job. There is a heavy burden in Congress. There are death threats. There is hatred. There is violence. There is a terrific executive branch currently who will supply, demand, and issue out the things which are horrific to people. And I watched the response to some of that in the campaign trail, and I thought, this may not be the perfect place. Um, when I looked at Sharif Street, I couldn't help but notice one, the lack of ambition. It was almost as though God has just kind of placed a throne of this is going to be my next position. And then the Democratic machine came out, and I
Wait,
wrote,
stop, 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 stop. Talk to me about the lack of ambition. What do you
yeah,
mean? I need you to expound on the lack of
I
ambition because
saw,
I have not heard you say that.
yeah, I saw Chris fight for every vote that he got. I saw Ayla fight for every vote that she was getting. I couldn't find a fight in Sharif Street. I
Mm,
couldn't find an energy that said, I need your vote. There was a, of course you will vote for me.
mm,
And even if you don't, it will be okay.
mm,
And that sort of lackadaisical approach to politics. I'm someone who goes to the mat and fights for people, individuals that have nothing to do with me, that I've never met my entire life before, every week. And so I needed to feel, experience that fire, that fight, and it was lacking in every time I would see him speak. I thought, where's
Could
that?
it just be that he is a laid back individual?
It could be that there's a history of a lack of fight, right?
Mm.
And so when I looked at that, I thought, well, let's see. And then I got to, when it was time to redistrict, the Republican red map,
Yeah,
which
that I think
favored
that's
him.
the part that was the sticking part for a lot of people.
It
Yeah.
hurt, man. It hurt so bad to watch him choose himself over the people he supported. When the second opportunity to sort of vet that came along, would this person fight the Trump machine? Would they go against it? Would they be? I watched a failed Democratic operation for the presidential elections, which he in many ways was in charge of what Pennsylvania looked like for that. And so I thought, God, you've dropped the ball in this big national way. You've told us that you are looking out for you before you're looking out for the constituent. I saw that in that vote. And then the straw that broke the camel's back was, I believe, Mayor Parker. And Mayor Parker said, that Sharif Street has been the person that she needs in Pennsylvania to help get the things that she needs to get done for Philadelphia. And I thought, you know what? Since you have not resigned your job, I want you to stay there and continue helping Mayor Parker do the things that she needs to do for Philadelphia. Because
Mhm.
I think that there's a better candidate, someone who's willing to go and fight, someone who has put, I mean, I had to watch that, right? Someone who put themselves and their candidacy on the line at least twice in a big way, right? We had a candidate who said, I'm seeing something shady in my own employees. I have to fire them and
Oh my
explain,
God,
right?
yeah.
I saw that. It was the first thing I went, whoa, that's
Because
honesty.
that could have cost him his
On the, and I want us to put this in the context of it's on the campaign trail. This is on, I'm trying to be elected, I'm trying to win your vote. I'm going out, I'm fighting for every single vote, every single person. And I'm going to hold myself so accountable that I'm willing to destroy my candidacy over making sure that I'm clean. I love that. Two, um, I watched how there is a history of what we will not do and what we won't say, like this bill, second crucifixion, if you will. He had an opportunity to say, like many politicians would, who would lie to us and say, vote for me and then do something else. They'd say, you know what? I'm just going to vote for this because it sounds great and everyone else did. I'm going to just put my name on this. But in the last couple weeks of the campaign, he said, no,
a
this is
second
a
thing
bad
that could have
deal.
cost him. Yeah, he's brave. I'll give him that. He
Brave.
is brave
And then
and
he when
forthright.
he took it, he stood up, he took it, and he said, "But look at what's inside this. And if I were going to go to Congress on your behalf, would you want me to just sign off on these sorts of bills, or would you want me to dissect them and say this is wrong? This is wrong for people who look like us. This is wrong for people who are women, who are single." Who are anything other than white, this is wrong. This bill is wrong. And so when you can do your job that way, risk it all, because again, he's the only person who's given up his job to run this race,
Yeah.
right? He doesn't have something cushy to fall back on at the end of the day. And I thought after that, after really great prayerful meditation, conversation on the street, I went out to the streets and I talked daily to individuals and said, what are your concerns? Where are we going? And then I thought prayerfully about who am I? What are my stances? Where do I fall? And where are we in America today? Today, we're at a place where we don't have the ability to rest This politics and business as usual is not acceptable. This lack of listening to the will of the people is unheard of today. And it is why we have the Trump regime in power. And we needed someone who was willing to go into the fire and play chess instead of checkers. And I saw too much checker playing going on with Sharif. And I wasn't sure that Ayla Stanford was ready to take the type of threats and stuff that's coming to a person like that. And the way that she dealt with it this time was to say, I'm going to stay home. I'm not coming to the debate stage. I need to sort of regroup and get myself together. And this is not the time to regroup. You have to be able to be boiled in the pot as a lobster.
What do you say to the folks? Some I'm playing devil's advocate on
Yeah.
behalf of Senator Street and on
Hmm.
behalf of Ayla Stanford, Dr. Ayla Stanford, because neither of them are here. And I really do wish I had an opportunity to give people an opportunity to see Senator Street in his own environment, because this space gives you that, right?
Well,
People
he
would
was
have been
unwilling
able
to
to
show
see
up. I
him.
watched that episode.
According to them, it was someone in his camp that didn't give out the right information. He was
That's what
willing
they
to.
said when he dropped the ball for the Democratic campaign. That's also what they said when he went the redistricting. The excuse is always someone else has made the decision for me, and that's the same. I just
Okay,
that bothers me. Okay, go ahead. You're devil's advocate.
so
So,
devil's advocate. So let me play devil's advocate for two people who are not here.
yeah.
Let me start with Senator Street. He has not asked for, up until very recently, not asked for his father's support. He has run on his own steam. He has worked his tail feathers off. I'm playing devil's advocate. Let the side eye go, sir. Just let me play devil's advocate. He has been out here stomping and asking everybody for their vote. He's shown up to every single thing. Um, why not him? If
So
this was something that he said, he worked so hard for. What do
well,
you
okay. So I think we have to set a couple records straight. While he may not have asked for the endorsement of his father outright, he certainly used all of his father's political advisors for his own campaign. And those advisors are the advisors who advised him to take the executive branch in Philadelphia and stick them all on the front steps of City Hall without listening to the fact that we had just lost a school vote and closed 17 neighborhood schools, without thinking about the fact that the executive branch had just added taxes onto the citizens, which was not going well, without thinking about the fact that the Chinatown development had a block of people who were very angry still about the 76ers deal, even though it didn't go through, just the idea that they would be sold away. And that entire block of people came to City Hall, got on the front steps, and said, "We support this candidate," and he lost 16 points in the polls immediately because there's a tone deafness. And I would have said, you know what, maybe this is the time to see what happens. There's going to be a shifting, a regrouping, a changing of direction. And what we saw was no, they doubled down on this. They just added more members of the administration. They added more people from local government. They added more, and it became the operation of the machine, which I
David
invited.
says, wait, David said, we don't need a show horse, but someone who can work with the party. Sharif will work with the party for cohesion and exercise the will of his constituents.
I think that's very interesting for David, particularly for David, since David asked for a lot of things that he hasn't gotten, right? Because of the party, because of the party politics was played over and over and over and over again against him, including that red redistricting of that map, right? So there are things that David would love to see that happen in favor of his rental bits that actually Rep Rob would have changed some of the rules about how that went down. But there was no check or balance in a person on the floor at that time. There were some things that Rep Rav says all the times that are like, what's happening with how we repair the damages of education? Why are we not looking at the whole system as a total? Right. So I think, quite frankly, what I don't want to see in office is someone who kisses the butt of the governor, the mayor, the whatever, the this, and the other, just as a sign off. Because what we have seen when that happens is that when the mayor refuses to abut Trump, we need someone to say, no, 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 that can't be. It can't be Rue Landau and Kendra Brooks, who are the only people putting legislation forth that stops ICE. Right? That can't be. We can't live in a city where the people who are stopping the final blow are the local politicians. We need people in Washington, D.C. who are fighting. That's why when AOC came out and said, this is someone who fights now, right? When people like Jamie Raskins came to Philadelphia and said, "This is someone who fights now," it was very important to listen to the people who are in Congress fighting, the only people who are on the chessboard and not the checker system. So, respectfully, I don't want someone who's going to sign off on the bottom line so that you get that $1 increase in tax with anybody saying that's a problem.
Mm. And let's go to Dr. Ella Stanford.
Yeah,
Brilliant, brilliant
brilliant,
search.
salt of the earth, love as a person,
Wants
love.
to do whatever she can to change business as usual. She would be considered a progressive too, all things considered.
Her
Yes, no.
personality, personally, I find progressive. I have not seen her acumen in business be progressive. I've seen her go outside the rail and around,
Mm-hmm,
right? But I've seen it with traditional channels as well. So I think
mm-hmm,
she's someone who plays the game, but I
mm-hmm,
think she may play chess with too much of the ear and the support of people who will say to her, "You may not do this." And
mm-hmm,
again, I say to you in my most private conversations that I I cannot find a
mm-hmm,
temporal thought which makes me feel uncomfortable with her. If she won this race, I would sleep easy at night.
mm-hmm,
Um, but there is a difference between being dyed in the wool, ready to battle, walking through fire and challenging yourself, putting yourself
mm-hmm,
on the line where you are destroyed and built back up again week after week to win, right? That we're talking about a machine in Washington, D.C. right now which has one of the most vicious people I have ever met in my entire life, who I personally have known for at
mm-hmm,
least 20 years, sitting in
mm-hmm,
the Oval Office, deciding day after day to strip people of their rights, their
mm-hmm,
access, their ability, anything that he can to enrich himself. And what I have witnessed in friends of mine who are in Congress now is that he's willing to send the people to destroy them, send them to jail, figure
mm-hmm,
out ways to bump them off, anything that's possible.
mm-hmm.
So when I
Yeah,
look at a person
it's
like Ayla,
dangerous.
and I
It's
think
dangerous.
yeah. So when Ayla made the statement that she was not attending some of the debates because of the nastiness, some of the untruth, some of the hurt, I thought to myself, but that's going to be every day. That's going to be every day.
David said, David is hilarious. David says, we don't need more people like AOC. That's why we have Trump. Really, David?
Actually, I would say that
Really?
AOC didn't become popular until Trump became Trump. And we had this wonderful ride of nothingness. And I think the lack of fight that we witnessed in this last Democratic push, which, by the way, was led by your friend Street, right? That campaigning in Pennsylvania and how Pennsylvania Democrats came together and the chairman of that. We need to think about that, right? And we talk about tough on crime all the time. There's always this what we need to do about crime, but we can't get it together in our own personal house.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you were to just type into your Google machine street crime record, the family is littered with crime record. That's public information currently. Right. So I won't get into it because it's personal, but I need you to do what you say you're about. I need to see it. And when I type it into the machine and it pops up, you're not doing it. There's ongoing stuff in court currently.
I wish I really wish he had had the opportunity to come on
I
and
wish
be
he would have showed
invested
up
in
there
that
too.
the conversation, because to your point, he would have been able to clarify, clean up, clear up some of this stuff, or he may have chosen to just not address it at all, which also speaks volumes.
The other thing I will say is I have not yet once heard him in opposition to any one of the ideas that was gifted to us by our current government local.
Mm-hmm,
Even when those ideas failed, he
mm-hmm,
just switches like the wind and is in support of whatever's coming along. And the person who is in Washington, D.C., advocating for Philadelphia needs to be advocating from a place of moral correction from the beginning, not as a response. Reactive governance is done. I'm sick of it. I'm so over reactive governance. Oh my God, there's a water main break. Now we care to fix it. When people have been telling you for years it was a problem.
mm-hmm,
My goodness, poverty is a problem today. What do we do about that now? Oh, COVID's already here. But look at his votes when who was coming along. Look at where he was standing before. So I hear it. And in fact, many of the people who were actually Democrats in the job positions called Ayla, called Chris, called other people and said, we would love to support you, but they're going to fire us if we do it.
yeah, yeah.
we're going to be out of a job. You've heard those
So I
things,
think because
I'm
their
sure.
votes are private, I think people are going to go to the voting booth and say what they want to
Yeah, but
say.
they were still made to go out and stand with the sign in the front of City Hall
That's it.
against their will.
I know. I know. Goodbye, David. I make a stay close to your phone because after I get off with Chris Rabb, I may reserve the right to bring you back so we can have a conversation. Have
Absolutely.
Rhonda Anderson in. Bye, my darling. Have a good one. Bye bye. Whoo, child, and this is the way the week has begun. Lord help us, Lord. Bye, David. Let me let
I know how to get away. They won't let me go.
girl, it's gonna be a hot week.
Girl, it's gonna be a hot week.
Oh boy, already.
Yes.
Yes.
I can hear an echo behind me.
behind me.
Listening
So
to me,
listening,
turn it off. Do you hear it?
You hear it?
Yeah, how do I do that?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you,
I
but
can
when
hear
I
you,
talk,
but when
I
I
can hear
talk, I
myself.
can hear myself.
Oh, so how do I do that?
All right, so click
All right,
out
so
and
click
come
out
back.
and come back.
Okay, all right.
All right, bye-bye, honey.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Who? Marguerite says your show is promoted enough for everyone to know who was scheduled to be on your show, whether the people gave them the right information or not. I listen. Ooh, Lord have mercy. Ooh. When I tell you this election, particularly there's a gubernatorial election in Pennsylvania, ain't nobody paying that any attention because who's gonna mess with Josh Shapiro? Like, cause he's running unopposed, right? Until all right, can you hear me, Rhonda?
I can hear you.
Yep, good. I don't hear the echo again. So this
Okay.
is good. First of all, I want to thank you profusely for consistently changing your schedule because this one wanted to come on and that one wanted to come on.
It's busy.
And oh my God, it got busy. Election time. Attorney Rhonda Anderson is the founder of Anderson Law Group ALG, a woman-owned, client-centered firm with a passion for achieving high-impact, long-term rewards for her clients, of which I am one. While also providing resources to strengthen our communities, ALG provides legal and strategy consulting services to individuals, religious institutions, small business, and not-for-profit organizations. Today, we're going to talk about, good morning, my darling. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you too. Today, we're going to talk about not-for-profit because they're on the fire.
Yeah.
So what is it that we need to know and why should people be thoughtful about starting a not-for-profit?
Okay. So I think a lot of times we have folks who have, we call them kitchen table dreams, right? And we're like, I could do that. I could do that. There's something I'm doing. I could help. And I get calls a lot of times where folks are like, I want to start a nonprofit so I could get grants. And I say,
is that why they're starting nonprofits, to get grants?
Because I could get grants. And I have to ask them, well, what are you doing? What's your service? What's the charity? What are you doing? So nonprofits are really organizations where the government does give some great benefits, do some things, but we have to make sure that people understand this is not your personal business. So there's certain things you need to have a board. You need to have documents in place. You need to make sure that that your affairs are properly in order, and not just this idea that I'm going to start this, I'm going to get some grants and put all my family members on the board, and this is going to be our personal pocketbook.
I'm going to need you. Do you see my neck? I'm going to need you to stop playing with me. Did you say family members on the board?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know not anyone on this call. I know no one on this, on our show. But yeah, so, you start off with a great idea, which a lot of folks do. But I think we should understand that the reason why nonprofits are funded, the reason why they have tax benefits, all these great things is because you are really providing a service that the government is not, right? So if you just think about this in terms of just the social impact, the government may not necessarily be providing all of these services. So we look to nonprofits and charitable organizations to provide these services for our citizens, for our communities. But where we get in trouble is, one, we think we can start them on our own. We don't always seek legal advice early. You're one of my favorite clients because you called me. I was in somewhere, Cayman Islands. I don't know where I was at. I know I was at the beach, and you called and you said, I need to start my nonprofit. I need to get these things going. I got some great things. I had already known behind the scenes what you were working on. But you called me first. You didn't
Yes.
call
And
me
and
after
do
you
you
did all
and
the
do
applications.
and do you
You
notice
called.
I have not applied for not a grant? Okay, not a single, and I've had this nonprofit now for almost a year, if not a year,
Close to a year. It'll be next
close to
month
a
is a year.
year. And so what I am doing is building what is it that I want to do, and it's really to support women
Absolutely.
and helping them
Absolutely.
to get to a place and getting the services that they need without it costing them a dime. So,
Absolutely.
but I put the piece in place by getting it together so I don't have to worry about it when I am ready to move forward. But what you're suggesting is that people start nonprofits so they can get grants, so they can have money in their pockets. To what end? Because that's dangerous.
It's very dangerous because you have to remember, as a nonprofit, you are a public charitable organization. You are a public organization. If you apply to be a nonprofit and then get your 501c3, which is your tax exempt status through the IRS, right, which is what you have, you are a public charity. If you want to be a private foundation, that's a whole different conversation, which is also great. But there are certain rules for private foundations. But when people just say, I'm going to get grants, as if there are a lot of grants out there, I mean, that also takes work. It's not, it's not just money falling from the sky. It takes a lot of work. You have funders that have their own certain responsibilities and requirements. So start with a professional. And 9 times out of 10, when I talk to people, a lot of times just say you're not necessarily ready. Don't spend the money yet. You're not necessarily ready. Do what you're doing. Start harvesting, what the work is, volunteers, I think there's a lot to it. There's some benefits, but we just have to be very careful. It's a lot of low-hanging fruit too.
Okay, so let me give you an example. Right here in Philadelphia, not-for-profit foundation ended up in the news because they got $400,000 from the city and $200,000 over here, and they rented out properties and they hired people, but then it came out in the wash that the rent was not being paid and the people were not being paid, and the head of that non-for-profit organization was cussing everybody out and then got hired by the city to do some other stuff.
Okay, right. Love it.
Hold on.
Love it.
Legally, what can happen because I'm thinking at this point the federal government is watching you like nobody's business. What does one need to do to not find themselves in that predicament as a not-for-profit?
So there are certain rules you have to abide by. We have a nonprofit law in Pennsylvania. Every state has its own corporate law. So 9 times out of 10, you probably don't know what it says. So hire an attorney. Make sure you have, a lot of times your bylaws have to be in order. So what are your bylaws? I explain to my clients, your bylaws are kind of like the Bible. Now, how you use your Bible is important. Do you just put it up until you need it, or do you actually know what the bylaws say? So there's probably language in your bylaws that talks about how you can't benefit from the organization personally, because that's also the law. In terms of checks and balances, a good accountant, a good CPA, a good bookkeeper. So you're running a business. So although you're doing good stuff, right? You're a do-gooder, you're giving out turkeys or whatever it is that you're doing, you're running a business. So treat it as such. Make sure you have competent people, a good CEO, a good financial officer, a good treasurer. Make sure your board members have been trained, right? Because at the end of the day, the board members they're the fiduciary. So it's not just you running it. So I make my joke about you put your family on the board, but the board is the one that's liable. Have good board insurance. I don't sit on boards unless the boards and the nonprofits have good insurance. I ask for that first, because as a board member, you'll be sued. You'll be right. So now you're dragged into this. You're sued. If you own a home or if you got some assets, they're coming after your stuff. So treat it accordingly. Have people who are running it who know what they're doing, and make sure you have professionals. It's just that it's like any other business.
So they need to get legal counsel. They need to make sure that whoever the board members are people who are fiduciary, responsible fiduciary in their fiduciary duties. You need a good accountant. That makes all the difference in the world. And so what's in your estimation now, why are nonprofits struggling at this point? because a ton of them are making the news and they're struggling.
Yeah. And honestly, a lot of everybody's not stealing, right? There are just some people who have a very altruistic mindset and want to do good, just don't know what to do, right?
Mhm.
So you want to make sure, I have colleagues who are board consultants, who are nonprofit consultants, and who come in and do training and explain what your roles, responsibilities are. They bring me on to scare everybody about what your duties are sitting on this
Mhm.
board.
Mhm.
So that's one thing. I think also this administration doesn't make it easy. We're not necessarily in a
Mhm.
cycle where a lot of funds are flowing to
Right.
nonprofits. So you got to be mindful. You got to keep the lights on. You got to make sure the employees are still being paid. So again, it's a rub, and it's not just I'm trying to do good things. Then you have to think about other areas of revenue. So it can't just be relying on grants or relying on the church to give you money, or
Mhm.
your state rep giving you money. Like you've got to be
Mhm.
mindful about what your business entails, what you're actually doing,
Mhm.
and making sure you have the revenue to keep it going. I
Mhm.
think that's part of the challenge. We're just
Mhm.
administrative wise, we're just in this country right now, everybody's
Yeah.
suffering.
Mhm.
And they gotta know how to run a business. It's just not, this
To
is not just something
Marguerite,
you do at the kitchen table. Like you are
yeah.
responsible.
To Marguerite's point, most people don't know how to run a business. They set up their nonprofits like it's a job. They don't get the proper wise counsel, but it
Yeah.
costs money, Marguerite. It costs
And more than
money.
money, yeah, it does. And I think
Mhm.
that's why you have to be strategic early and really
Mhm.
think about what it is, what services you're offering,
Mhm.
how the market bears it. Do you have the money to do it? There's
Mhm.
startup money, but there's the challenges. You're running a business. You're getting benefits. You're not paying income taxes. You're not paying state
Mhm.
taxes. You may not be paying real estate taxes. So you go to BJ's and not pay, sales tax. There's a ton
Mhm.
of benefits, but we don't talk enough about how to keep it going, how to make sure
Mhm.
that we are in compliance with it.
Erica says, if the bylaws need revision, is there an advisable way to accomplish that?
Hire a lawyer.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't, that's the easy. Hire an attorney, a good
Mhm.
nonprofit attorney. If
Mhm.
you don't necessarily have the resources, there are a number of organizations out here that support nonprofits.
Mhm.
There's the Nonprofit Center at LaSalle. So there's different organizations that you can reach out to that can
Mhm.
help and bring good counsel in. So there's no excuse for not getting somebody of a professional level who could help with this.
Okay. And if they can't afford an attorney?
Nonprofit Center. LaSalle University runs, it's called the Nonprofit Center, and they have some great folks over there who do this work. Um,
Mhm.
Almost every university in the law school will have a clinical for nonprofits. So
Oh.
reach out to Temple, reach out to Villanova. They train their law students who want to work in nonprofit work, and you could go talk to them. There's also pro bono attorneys that do this work. So a lot of times I do a lot of this work. So there's probably the most resource filled in this
Mhm.
area to get
Mhm.
help. And it
Okay.
doesn't necessarily, have to break the bank.
Rhonda, when should someone not start a nonprofit?
Ah, well, when they shouldn't start it is one, if they don't have a very clear idea of the services and the people they're going to help. Let's start with
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Quite honestly, if they don't have their own startup money to get it started. So your first year, you need to apply. You got to pay the government the application fee. If you don't, that's,
Mhm.
if you have a lawyer, you need to have at least somebody who's of some accountant stature to review your budget, things of that
Mhm.
nature. You need
Mhm.
insurance. There are certain startup costs you need to come up with day one.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
they need a good board, right?
Mhm.
Again, I like when people ask me to sit on boards because they need a professional. I appreciate that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so if you're not ready to do a lot of this work
Mhm.
early and
Mhm.
kind of mining and making sure, you may want to just kind of think through it. And then I also tell people, go to where the organizations are, go to different events, go to where the funders are, go talk to funders. The good thing about Philadelphia is we are rich in this area. We have
Mhm.
we have Pew, we have the Penn Foundation, William Penn Foundation, we have
Mhm.
all the eds and meds. So
Mhm.
all your nonprofits, Penn,
Mhm.
Temple, Jefferson, they're nonprofits. They're probably the highest earners. So you don't have to be poor. You don't have to be no money, but surround yourself with people who are doing this work. I think you'd be surprised how helpful and how, people could be real with you about what to look out for. And this, I was at an event and I think someone from Jefferson was speaking and high up. And one recommendation she made is, listen, if you want to do work with us, you have to learn how we do work, how we give out contracts, how we do this work. Don't come and just say like, oh, I just want to work with Jefferson. You need to know how long it takes us to fund. It takes us a while to get you money. So if you need money right now, you need to have another option. So I think it's the idea of starting this business.
Back up a little bit. You said something that struck me. They have a fiscal year. And oftentimes when people go and ask for money, they're already halfway through the fiscal year. So you need to know and research the people that you want to get support and help from. Because oftentimes they start their fiscal year in January or February the year before, and you show up in July and they're like, I'm sorry, but we've already given out the funding. You have to know what you're doing, right? Ask the questions, as Rhonda says. You are so correct. I've been around enough nonprofits to see the National Cares Mentoring Movement is one of them, even though Susan L. Taylor is attached to it and they're doing phenomenally well. There were so many checks and balances. That's how I learned. So many checks and balances. And so, to your point, when someone mismanages the money, guess who's held to account? The board members had to say to folks, this is why the money was spent, even though the affiliate may be in another state somewhere else, right? You have to be willing to be able to be held accountable in all of this. And with this new administration, with this current administration, they're talking about taking away nonprofits. We're coming after nonprofits. So
it's easy. It's an easy grab. And sadly, we don't make it any harder because a lot of times we are out of compliance. I also tell people, what they could do is they could also go take a class. I taught at East University for years, nonprofit management. You could get a master's degree in nonprofit management. You could get a certificate in nonprofit management. You could go to your local university, CCP. I would be shocked if a local university here doesn't offer that, where you could learn just about nonprofit management, legalities, compliance, fiscal years, where to apply. And a lot of times they're taught by folks like us, right? Community folks, people like me, so you could learn accounting for nonprofits, which is different than your regular, you fill out your tax return at home. So there's all of these different things. And then I think you're armed with the knowledge. And then more importantly, when you go to funders or you go to folks, to Marguerite's point, Jefferson's fiscal year is going to be July 1 to June 30. You're going to know that other folks are, a lot of times the government, they're weird. Sometimes they're October. So, and then you go to people armed with knowledge and you know what they need. Because a lot of times we go to funders about what our needs are, but not what they're trying to do. Right. So I had a client who reached out to me. They do some kind of animal rights, which I thought was great, but they were reaching out to funders who don't do anything with animals. And I said, well, that's great, but that's not what these people do. So, you've got to do a lot of research, a lot of homework, a lot of networking. Your project is great. I tell people, your project is the best project ever. But does the community need it? Or is it just your own personal passion project? So if it's your own personal passion project, you know what that is? It's a hobby. It's not a nonprofit. It's a hobby. Just do your hobby.
It's that ouch. That's a little ouch, but I'm glad that you're on to discuss what has happened.
Hobby if you're not doing it correctly. Right. It's an expensive hobby.
Has anyone been locked up for mismanaging their nonprofits?
Absolutely. So to your point, it's not just being sued, you're going to jail. If you're stealing, or if you're, this is a lot of times this is public dollars, public money. So if you're taking it and you're not using it appropriately, or if you're benefiting yourself, yes, you're going to jail. Expensive hobby.
And should you, when it's time to do the tax return, I just pay you because, girl, you are right. It's a whole lot of different things that have to be. So should you just let the attorney do it? Have a nonprofit accountant? What should they
All
do?
of the above. It depending upon where you are. So if you're new in this and maybe you don't necessarily have a lot of revenue, the process is a little bit easier
Simpler,
in terms
right?
of return. But as you grow, if you reach certain thresholds, if you're getting federal grants, for example, and sometimes you have to bring in an auditor. So you may have to have an accountant who handles the tax returns, but then depending upon how much money you're bringing in or where the grants are coming from, you may now have to have an auditor, a separate organization altogether, to review to make sure everything and to prepare an audit. So this, again, this is real stuff where you need to have money to pay these professionals. And a lot of times when I look at some of the ones that fall off or the ones who are not doing so great, they don't have an auditor. They didn't have somebody come and just audit, because the auditors will come in and say, hey, you're not supposed to do that.
Right.
Why is this money in your personal account? Why don't you have a business account? Why? What's happening? If you don't file your federal, if you're a 501c3, your federal return in 3 years, let's say you miss it 3 years consecutively, the government revokes your nonprofit status. The government revokes that tax exempt status. In Pennsylvania, you have to file an annual report. You don't file your annual report, you miss it after 3 years, you're automatically dissolved. So when you don't do these things, there are real repercussions to it. It's not just people bugging you. You've got to make sure you do it, and it's all public.
Yes.
Whatever you put down there about what you're making or not making.
Laura says, how much is it to start a nonprofit in general?
It's a good question. It depends. It depends on one, what state you're in, what size. If you're planning on generating more revenue over the years, you have to go through the regular process. So I tell people you're probably looking upwards about $2,500 for everything, including the documents that you need and the filing fees. But that varies depending upon the type of organization you're planning to start.
Mm-hmm. And if the IRS calls and says, I need to speak, you need to have someone that can say, this is what it is, blah, 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 blah. It really is worth having the conversation around it. Truly. It truly is. It truly is. Rhonda, it's always a pleasure, my darling. How can we find you?
So Rhonda at andersonlaw.co. My website is andersonlaw.co. So not .com, but .co. And our office number is 215-874-3893.
3893?
Yes, ma'am.
3893 215-874-3893. If you have not seen or noticed the pattern with me yet, I only invite people on here that are about the business, about being about the business, and making sure that when you go to them, you'll be okay with having the conversation. When you come back, because I want to have another dialogue with you, we're still having conversations about wills, estates, people dying and not leaving. Rhonda, I don't know any other way to say except to bring you back on here every month to talk to them about this. It is devastating lives, and people are dying. And for instance, just the other day, someone who was married, divorced, did not change their will, got remarried. What happened, Rhonda?
What happened? Oh, the first wife was so sad. So sad. But guess what? Benefits from everything. Benefits. Right? If your first wife is on your insurance, your life insurance, she's so sad, but she's happy because she's getting the check. So sad.
And what can you do? Because you say, but I've been married to him for 15 years. And
so what you need to do is before he, departs, get your stuff in order. Get his stuff in order. Is your name on the deed? Is your name on the current insurance? Is your name on the bank accounts? Is the will current? Does he have a will?
Lord Jesus.
I have a family right now where the first wife is still on the deed. He's got a second wife who's not on it. And guess what? He died. And he died. How fun is that? Right? How do we entertain him?
Ekoromo Shandalomo This is crazy.
It is. And it happens. And and not to I know not to make this anymore, but think about the youngsters that were killed in Upper Darby, the little girl who was shot by our classmate, the people, the children. It's just things are happening daily that we've got to just be mindful about and make
Yeah.
sure that we plan and that we're taking care of. It's
Yeah.
just it very where it
Or the
is.
woman that was driving her Lexus somewhere a couple of days ago, and she had the green light, was going through the green light, and she was T-boned. She died instantly in the intersection, and the
Yeah.
man that was in the car beside her, he died at the hospital.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
are nuts. And so it's so important to be ready at all times. I don't bring
Absolutely.
Rhonda on here just so you can suck your teeth and go, I can't afford that. You can't afford not to. You
Yeah.
just can't afford not to. And check your wills and check your bank account. Check everything ever so often. Don't just sit there. Change a beneficiary. When I married Mr., I was like, God Almighty, I had to call the life insurance company, to call this one. And we went and sat with a lawyer and wrote our wills and made sure, God forbid, one of us checks out of here, the other one is okay.
Right. And some of these things you could do on your own. You just like you said, you could go to the bank today. You don't need me that. Go to the bank, go your own. You could add beneficiaries, you could check. You could go to work and make sure on your insurance from your job, who did you name? If you have your own insurance, you call your insurance agent and just say, I just want to do a review. There's no excuse for handling this. There really isn't. And nobody wants to talk about death. Nobody wants to talk to a lawyer about that. So when you see me coming, nobody wants to talk to me. But we have to, and I try to take the sting out of it, but we just have to.
I'm gonna call you privately because my daddy.
Oh yeah, I need an update.
he out here living his best life, best life.
As he
And
should.
as his daughters were like, yeah, sir. So all of those things, So we got to navigate all of it and speak frankly through it, right? He had a health scare the other day, and we were all like, oh, and nobody wanted to talk to the new woman. Nobody.
Wow.
And I was like,
that's the reality. That's the reality.
Our daddy is sick of us.
He's not. He's not. He knows. He knows you all have his best interest.
Yeah, well, he does. Well, what he said is, these are my 4 daughters. Play not.
Yes.
Play not. And he tells us all the time, everything is in place. You don't have to worry about none of that stuff. I made sure everything is in place. And we were like, look, bro, you taught us how to manage ourselves and make our own coins. So we don't have to depend on you to leave anything. For your grandchildren, wonderful. And your great-grandchildren, knock yourselves out. But baby, Alexandra says you need a copy of your divorce decree and a notarized letter from the spouse stating they don't want your pension in the state of Pennsylvania. What?
Well, not quite. That's a very good point. But you have to make sure in your divorce proceedings that this pension was talked about. So it's not just having the decree. You have to make sure, and it also depends where you work. If you work in the city of Philadelphia, they make it very difficult when you remarry to have your next spouse be on your pension. It's a process that requires a whole lot, and you don't want to go find your old man.
And this is why you have to keep coming on back coming back on every month. Rhonda at andersonlaw.co 215-874-3893. My darling, always a pleasure. Chris Rabb is in the lobby. So let me go ahead.
After election day so I can have my
stuff back. Bye, my darling. See you later.
All right.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. You too. Whew, Mr. Rabb. Good morning, sir.
Rep Rabb here. Good morning.
I can't see you.
I don't know why. Let's see. Let's see what we can do about that.
You might have to log out and come back in. Make sure your camera is on.
It asked me,
and
I selected yes.
All right. So I'm going to suggest you log all the way out and come back in.
All right. Here we go.
All right. Bye-bye. You did not miss Chris Rabb. He just came. He just came in. He just came in. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. Before he walks back in, let me let him in. Let me see if we see him here. I don't. Your thing is acting. I still can't see you.
Am I allowed to be on Zoom? Is it a Chrome thing?
No, it's a.
Okay.
You know what?
Let's see here.
I'm going to send a link to David. Do you have access to David Alexander Jenkins?
Well, send a link to me.
Oh, I don't have your phone number, sir.
Well, don't send it to my phone number. Send it to my email.
What's your email?
Rabb, RABBFOR, Congress@gmail.
Congress@gmail. All right.
Yes.
All right. Log out again, sir. I'm going to
All
send that
right.
to you.
Here
All
we
right.
go.
Bye-bye. Ooh, Rab. Congress at. I know they've got to be tired. I know they all have to be exhausted. Cheese and crackers. It's a lot going on out here. Whew. All right, hold on, y'all. Congress at Gmail. See, this is what happens when you are live, y'all. And my little fingers are up and away. All right, let me. This is when I wish I had my producer right beside me. Because I don't have to do all of this stuff. But okay, here we are. Let me pull up this link for him and get it over. Copy. All right, y'all. I'm sending it back to him, and then I'm sending him a fresh link so that he can come back in. If he doesn't have, if they, if he still doesn't have his camera on, then we'll figure it out. They're saying, welcome back, Mr. Rabb. Sent that over to him. Let me. State Rep Chris Rabb is a 5-term Pennsylvania state representative from Northwest Philadelphia and a progressive Democrat running for Pennsylvania's open 3rd congressional district seat. First elected in 2016, Rabb has built his platform around healthcare access, workers' rights, social justice, and reducing corporate influence in politics. He has earned endorsements from progressive leaders and organizations, including members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and is campaigning on policies such as universal health care, economic equity, and expanded voting rights. Let me try one more time to get him in here and see if this works. There you are.
All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you and I can see you.
Lovely, lovely.
The
So
people, go ahead.
I was just saying, good morning. The people, what people?
Oh, the people that are watching. They just popped in here and said, Lord, is he on yet? I was like, yes. Question, because it is now less than 24 hours before this election. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling amazing. I'm feeling wonderful. I'm very excited, and I'm prepared to accept the will of the people.
I like that. I like that. I like that. What has it been like in these last few weeks? So you were on here a couple of weeks ago, and if I'm reading the notes on my production here, they're saying that you help them to figure themselves out. Like listening to you help them to think about, okay, this is why I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And you gained a lot of followers, believe it or not. You gained a lot of folks as a direct result of being here on this particular platform. So we want to thank you for that because you didn't have to. And so what has it been like? I know you had Jamie Raskins. I know you had AOC. I know you
Ro
who?
Congressman Ro Khanna from California.
Okay.
Yes, Summerly.
And
Ilhan Omar, Rashida
wow.
Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, Maxwell Frost, Greg Kassar, Senator Chris Van Hollen, Delia Ramirez. Um, yeah, it's been a overflow of love and affirmation from the most progressive members of Congress who have asked, who not just ask, who are excited about the prospect of me joining them to do the people's work in Washington D.C. It's been
Mhm.
extraordinary.
Mhm. People still say, I have one guy on here that says being a progressive is a dirty word. Can you describe in your in your own words, what is a progressive? Because you described a bunch of people that we all love and respect in many, many ways because they stood up to the establishment. Who is a progressive? What is a progressive?
It's someone who believes in actual progress and not just playing around the edges. Like, if we want to move forward as a nation, as a people, as Black folk, as communities of struggle, we have to embrace progress in the excuse me, in the realest manners, right? Like, we can just say, oh well, let's just restore the cuts that Donald Trump made and go back to normal, before Trump, before normal, go back to normal, as though that ever worked for us. Normal has been oppressive. The norm is exactly what we're trying to change. We're trying to flip the proverbial tables.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you believe in systemic change for the benefit of everyone, you're not leaving people, the most vulnerable, the people closest to the pain, by the side of the road, then you're progressive. Now, you don't have to use that term, but that's what it means to me. People can listen in Philly politics, particularly for folks connected to traditional power structures and the Democratic establishment. Progressive is a dirty word. And so I understand why they use it as a pejorative, because it threatens their entrenched power. I get that. So if you identify with entrenched power, you should not be voting for me. I encourage you to vote for somebody else, because I don't have your interests at heart. If you believe in concentrating power, and I don't care if it's all Black people concentrating power, if the majority of Black people don't have access to that power, I can't roll with you. I believe in the diffusion of power. That's why I talk about radiant love. You don't want to keep love all to yourself. It's
Mhm.
abundant. You want to reach as many people as possible. I feel the same way about political power. If you
Mhm.
don't see yourself in the change that people claim they want, why would you mess around and vote? Why would you do anything? Why would you
Mhm.
even feel connected or a sense of belonging to anything if you can't see your reflection in those power structures? It doesn't make any sense.
I see I'm going to have
Listen,
more out there. You are, wow.
listen, look what happened last time we spoke, right? Come
Yes.
on. Listen, but
Yes.
look, I'm not going to come on your show and BS anybody. Like, this is
Mhm.
me. And look, there are other competent candidates.
Yes.
And there is a reason to vote for one of those other candidates. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not trying to get 100% of the vote. I would like the most votes. I would even prefer the majority of the votes. You don't need a majority to win
Mhm.
in these races. You need a plurality. The person with the
Mhm.
most votes win, but that's rarely more than 50%, right? There's four candidates in this race. I
Mhm.
could win with 27%,
Mhm.
but I- I'm trying to acknowledge a movement that I didn't create, but am benefiting from and seeking to expand, so more people, because 80% of people did not vote 4 years ago in this election for Congress, right? I don't talk about 2 years ago because that's a presidential. And so it's kind of apples to oranges, but
Mhm.
a non presidential election cycle for Congress, only 1 out of 5 Democratic voters could vote. And in Pennsylvania, you can only vote in the Democratic primary if you're a registered Democrat. In other states, if you're unaffiliated, and I meet a lot of unaffiliated voters here in Philly because they're
Mhm.
tired of the one party machine dictating everything and they don't feel seen. Only 1 out of 5 showed up. That means 4 out of 5 folks who already
Mhm.
took the initiative to register vote as a Democrat stayed at home. So
Mhm.
whose responsibility Is it to reach the folks who didn't feel compelled to come out to vote in previous election cycles? And my candidacy and campaign is seeking to reach people who the Democratic Party ignores. And that's young people. That's folks who share politics of mind about wanting to change things structurally. It's folks who do not trust establishment and entrenched politics.
Mhm.
Like those are folks who want to feel seen, and also a bunch of black people who are tired of feeling like our votes are being taken for granted. Like, oh, you got to vote Democrat because you're black, and that is a very disrespectful and problematic way of looking at exercising our right to vote.
Whew. As a congressman, this is from Bridget Powell. As a congressman, will you look at Title 5 federal funding that spends too much money on foster care instead of placing children, instead of placing children with fit and able relatives in Philadelphia DHS? We need that fixed.
Yes, I mean, here's the thing. I don't need to be an expert on every issue.
Mhm.
But this is clearly a sister who knows a thing or two
She
about
does.
the systemic issues. And also, I would imagine the disproportionately racialized um, manner by which our households are divided or brought together and provided the resources to take care of those folks, young people in the with the greatest need. And so much of social work and government is racialized in ways that hurt black folk. That is the tradition. That is the American tradition, is tearing up the black family. And so, um, if that is the lens by which this sister understands these systems of harm that disproportionately hurt our communities, um, I share that view. And I do not share that expertise. That is not my background. But
Mhm.
what is important about people who ask intelligent questions like this, do they believe that their next member of Congress will have the intellectual capacity to understand the complexities of these issues? Will they humble themselves and talk to the people closest to the pain who have suffered through these systems? Will they identify the right stakeholders? Will they listen and come to the table to learn from those experts? Then the answer to that is yes, right? Because if I try to pretend, oh, I'm an expert on this issue and all issues, you shouldn't trust me because there is no expert on every issue. But
Mhm.
if you understand the value and the values behind why I seek to serve and prepare myself, because I'll have 7 months to prepare myself for office. Whoever wins on May 19th, there's no Republican on the ballot on November 3rd. So starting on May 20th is where you have the preparation period, so
Mhm.
that when one takes office in January, they will be more ready than not. And so, what I can pledge to you, sister, who asked this question is, um, I I'm scheduling time to talk to groups and individuals and organizations around the district and beyond, to make sure I hear what the priorities are, what the specific issues are, and who are the people I need to cultivate to help build my knowledge base so I can be the type of advocate I want to be.
Well, you just answered that whole question about how would you prepare, because
Yes.
oftentimes folks get into office and they hire their friends, their families, or the on the advice of other people. I'm not just making this up. This has been
But
happening.
some of that is unethical, though. I should just mention that. You, so it may be legal, but I will not be. I will not be hiring relatives. That's a
Okay.
very common thing in
Mhm.
Philadelphia.
Mhm.
Um, it's something that I do not embrace.
Mhm.
When I talk about accountability, I often talk about where my money comes from, but it
Mhm.
also includes the choices I make with how I spend my money, which also includes how I spend the people's money. In
Mhm.
government, we have a budget and we can hire X number of people. Well, a
Mhm.
lot of it through the political patronage system, if people help you get elected, then they expect you to hire their cousin, whether their
Or hire
cousin
them.
or sure, but sometimes they're not able to be hired themselves. So like, okay, you can't hire me, you hire my whomever, my family member or whomever. And that's a transactional way of governance that I find deeply problematic.
Mhm. I have another question for you. There's a lot of fear right now that you will win this thing from local leaders. They have gone publicly and said things like, "This is who I want to be in the thing," because they will support me, will make sure. Should you prevail tomorrow, whew, how is that conversation going to go? Because do you need to still have this conversation with these leaders, across the state and locally, as now the incoming congressperson? What does that look like? Because there's
Sure.
clearly no love lost from many of them, just in the wording that they've used as they've described who they want to be in office. You know, that doesn't include you. And I'm trying to be as diplomatic as I possibly can be.
You don't need to be. You don't need to be. Listen, I'm a big boy. I got my big boy pants on, and this is not my first rodeo. This is my 12th election cycle.
Mhm.
And I've seen a lot of things. But this is what I can tell you. I am used to not being supported by the political class of Philadelphia. That is the norm. It is the norm that I have colleagues who have endorsed my opponents. Um, and I still work with them because no matter whether I like it or not, whether I think it's strategically wise, um, they're grown. They're going to make the decisions they make. But if they're fellow public servants, and you know me, I'm precise with my language. If they are fellow public servants and they're centered on serving folks and not just themselves and moneyed interest,
Mhm.
they're doing the people's work. Well,
Mhm.
then they will be willing to sit down. I certainly am.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the norm for me, is that I'm not supported by the political class, and I
Mhm.
work with them every day, including today, the day before the election. On the government side, I'm meeting with a bunch of fellow members of the House of Representatives around a security breach that occurred where some gun nut was had a hit list of 20 of us around the state, all Democrats. And so the work continues. And so I will meet in good faith with anyone who is not the enemy of justice.
Yeah, I will work with anyone that is not the enemy of justice. Okay, Alexandra says the fear is because the people of Philadelphia are waking up from the generational sleep of Philadelphia politics,
Wow, that's deep. I
right?
agree. I agree.
Laura says it's good to hear that he is against, whew, he's against the patronage system. Excellent stand on this issue. Marguerite says, no longer scratch your back thinking or actions. Listen, research and vote for who represents your values and morals. And David said, see, I just talked about the threats. Okay. Tracy Purdy says, you are not controlled by the machine, and that's scary for some. So
Well, yeah, what's that?
David says, ask him why they want him. What is it he's not going to do that they want to push? What is it that they're not going to do that they want you to push? That you're not going to do that they want you to push?
Um, Corporate interests, mediocre candidates, being silent on corruption and laziness, um, not being their rubber stamp. That's probably the most important thing. I'm nobody's rubber stamp. I'm not the so-called left's rubber stamp. I'm not white folks' rubber stamp. I'm not the Democratic Party's rubber stamp. Like, I'm grown, right? Like, I'm grown. Like, if people believe that I am serving for the right reason, right? Because I'm not one of these folks who, like, I'm always looking for a new position to run for. Like, there are people who are. No one can say that about me. Listen, in fact, no one can say I'm a career politician. I've served for 9 years. Our outgoing congressperson has been in office for nearly 50. I can't imagine doing that. And that is not in. I think we need to create space for new people.
Mhm.
who can continue a tradition of meaningful public service and not just take up all the oxygen for ourselves. I'm really proud that I didn't run for reelection for a sixth term, and that not only that, I created space for new people to come and serve and work with them. Like, I'm really excited about whomever succeeds me. I have my preference. I've backed Chris Johnson in the 200th legislative district. He's a young man, millennial. I'm Gen X. Like, we have value in all generations. He is not my cousin, you know. He's an individual with, critical thought and earnest. And we need to bring more people into this system to show that it's not just about um, uh, blind ambition or loyalty tests, but people are willing to put in the work. And this patronage system that was referenced is important because it, our our loyalties shouldn't be to someone who got us a job, but someone who's actually prepared to commit themselves to a higher calling that is not about personal enrichment or advancement. It's a collective struggle here. That's how we got to this point. Is all the previous generations, they sacrificed not to hook up their cousin, but to help the greater cause, to help Black folk, to help people, to communities of struggle. Everything I have, everything I'm proud of, everything that I've achieved, every opportunity that is meaningful to me as a person, as a father, as a citizen, is born out of the collective struggle of those people who chose to survive towards creating the opportunity to thrive for all future generations. They weren't just doing it for their people, their household or their block. They were doing it for humanity. Because I descend from 16 great-great-grandparents who were born across 6 states where slavery was the state law, and they all died free. And it wasn't because they were waiting for Abraham Lincoln to free them. We free ourselves.
Yeah.
That's my ethic. That's what I believe.
Thank you so much for that. You answered a question before I even asked it, which was, do you believe in term limits? Seriously, like, do you believe it? Because there, folks have been just sitting in office and just sitting there. But I gather from what you just stated that you believe in term limits, and that should you prevail and become our next congressperson in the 3rd district in Pennsylvania, that you will not sit there until you're old and gray. Dare I
Well, I'm
say?
already gray, so that ship has sailed. And old is a relative term. I'm previously young. How about that?
Previously,
But what I'll say is, I don't mind being transparent. And one of the highest compliments I've gotten as a public servant is, I used to represent one of the neighbors I used to represent in the state legislature is a very wealthy white, largely predominantly white neighborhood called Chestnut Hill. And there are folks in that community who would probably least embrace my politics, certainly my racial politics. Not all, but a higher percentage. And every now and then I would run into a constituent who would say, well, Rab, I don't really like your politics, but I respect you because you're smart, you're hardworking, and I can tell that you actually care about people and you do the work. And that's, that seems like a backhanded compliment, right? But it's not. It's like we don't have to agree on all policy things. I don't agree with all politics and stuff with close family members and friends. But do they believe that I have the best interests of the people who sent me to Harrisburg to represent them? Yes. And when I hear that from someone who does not share my politics, it affirms that there are people who know that I'm running and I'm representing them for the right reason. It's not because I'm using this as a springboard to be president one day or try to get wealthy or be a social media influencer or whatever. Like, all of those things are fine, but my job is serving the people. And they determine if they want me to continue to do that job. And I take that very seriously.
Margaret Boyd Faison said, Mr. Rabb, I have a young person in my life that is still undecided about tomorrow's vote. What would be today's words for him, to him?
Well, again, young is relative. So I don't know what decade, what generation they belong to, but imagine whoever they are is significantly younger than me. What I would say is look at the campaigns and the candidates and their social media, if they're on social media, and see not just how many pictures there are of the candidate with young people, but how many young people are speaking up
Mhm.
and see themselves reflected in a given candidacy. See how much power is exerted by young people in terms of how they speak up on a particular candidate and why. I have a long track record of mentoring young people, paying young people a living wage, starting at 14 years old, which is the earliest you can get working papers in
Mhm.
Pennsylvania, paying them a living wage. In 4 years ago, we paid them $21 an hour. That was the starting wage. So I walked the talk. But regardless of paying them, how are young people seeing themselves and exhibiting leadership in the current campaigns of the candidates who are running? And I think that speaks volumes, right? If you don't have young people who are volunteering, not just paid, right? Because anyone can take money to do
Mhm.
whatever, but who are volunteering their time and their treasure and their talents. And how is that reflected explicitly and consistently in the campaign? I have hundreds of volunteers, many of whom are not even old enough to vote. So I would start there. I would also start to determine, and if I could talk to this young person, the first question I ask everybody is, what do you care about? What do you care about? Not what do I care about as a candidate, because I have my opinions, but what do you care about as a young person? And what does that look like to you in terms of the type of things that could positively change the communities that you identify with? And that's how I respond to young people and anybody else. Look, I'm a father of two sons who are both away in college. Well, they'll be coming home tomorrow. um, and they have to see their own power now, not when they graduate, not when they get a driver's license, when they're old enough to vote, but now see their own power and see that they have beauty and strength
Mhm.
as human beings, irrespective of how young they are. And if that young person feels seen and heard and respected by that candidate,
Mhm.
directly talking to me or another candidate or through our campaigns, that's a positive sign. But if they don't see themselves reflected, their priorities, their interests, it's probably someone they shouldn't vote for.
Mhm. Ah, someone says if people are tired of high prices of not just gas or food, they should be able to know who to vote for by now. They should ask themselves, can I afford another 2 years of this? God bless. Amazing. Um, you have the propensity to create history tomorrow. You know I'm speaking the truth. You know you have the propensity to create history tomorrow against a an established machine that says you are not the one. A question was just sent to me to ask you, how are you different from the other three candidates?
I could probably think of five things right off the hat. One
Okay.
is I don't take corporate PAC money. Why is that important? Because who funds your campaign is who influences your
Mhm.
governance, right? If you're taking money, and this is hypothetical now, because I'm not suggesting that my candidates are controlled by corporate interests, because the level of corporate PAC money in this race has been minimal, actually.
Mhm.
Um, through PAC funds. That's political action committees. Those are legal entities that take money from various interests and then they cut checks to candidates and campaigns. That's what a PAC is. And PACs are not inherently bad. You can have a very progressive PAC that just helps promote progressive issues or like organized labor or environment or whatever.
Mhm.
You can also have corporations or law firms that
Mhm.
create PACs so that they give money to candidates to help their private interests. So PACs are
Mhm.
not inherently bad.
Mhm.
But if you have someone who's funded overwhelmingly by rich people,
Mhm.
and you notice that that candidate does not talk about taxing the ultra wealthy like I
Mhm.
do,
Mhm.
how are you going to trust them to address those issues when they're in Congress? Right. So my campaign has over 7,000 donors. I have more Philly donors. Um, I think 8, 9 times more Philly donors than all of my opponents combined. That's a
Mhm.
big difference. I didn't just talk about abolishing ICE recently. I actually introduced the first substantive bill, in fact, the only bill attacking ICE, an anti ICE bill, in 2017. So before it was popular. Um, I'm also someone who I'm the only one who's actually run a modern campaign and won in a contested race. No one else in the race has done that. I've done it 3 times. I've beaten the political establishment 3 times: 2016, 2018,
Mhm.
and 2022. I think that's important. I'm the only one that has a volunteer based team. I have hundreds of volunteers that have been trained all over the district. Um, I also have the most progressive track record, both in the legislature and the most progressive platform. I'm very proud of that. I have this is weird. So it's a fact, but I haven't been huge on endorsements because I'm used to beating people with more endorsements than me. It's weird having the most endorsements now. I have the most
Mhm.
endorsements of members of Congress. I have more endorsements from members of Congress who are on the front lines of change than all of my opponents combined.
Mhm.
And I think that's important too.
Mhm.
Um,
This
yeah.
is it's more than enough. So I'm glad that you
Okay. I just want to be,
answered this with
I'm
that.
a nerd. I like to be
Yeah.
comprehensive. I'm also
Mhm.
neurospicy, so I can go all through it. So thank you for reeling
You,
me in.
my husband's going to hear it and then go, "Yep, I'm neuro spicy too."
That's the neurospices of the world unite.
Yeah, yes.
That's
Someone
just how
says,
my brain is wired.
yes, I understand. Someone says, Mr. Rabb, how has the media machine helped or hurt your campaign?
Um, I think they've hurt more than they've helped actually. Even though I get a lot of earned media,
Mhm.
oftentimes it's very skewed, which is what
Mhm.
I expect because corporate
Mhm.
media does what corporate media does.
Mhm.
Um, the way it's helped is it is always affirmed that I am the progressive stalwart.
Mhm.
So whether people like that term or fully understand it, it is a brand that is probably most succinct and accurate about my political ideology.
Mhm.
I am a progressive. There are a lot of labels I can use, but that's the one that probably resonates the most with people. Like, oh, okay, I get it. He's not conservative. He's way on the other side, right? So they get that. Um, that's probably the only thing they get particularly
Mhm.
right. The opposite of that is they never provide context. Very rarely do they provide context for the things I say, and more
Mhm.
importantly, the things I do. Most notably, how I vote and how I've introduced legislation. They have done a
Mhm.
piss poor job of that, and I it is very aggravating because that's what journalists are supposed to do, and
Mhm.
I've found that to be consistently lacking. And I don't mean to like make this conspiratorial or anything.
Mhm.
Journalists are busy. They are, and our society has gutted that profession. So
Mhm.
they're doing a lot more with a lot less, but at the
Mhm.
same time, come on. Like,
Mhm.
some of the votes I've taken,
Mhm.
if they it's easier to have a headline saying Rab makes controversial vote versus Rab is the only one who didn't vote for a controversial bill, which is the same topic but radically reframed and more accurately framed. If
Mhm.
people knew, and I'm just going to say it, right, because I know a lot of people are talking. I had a protest that one of my opponents facilitated in front of my office. The first time in 10 years I had a protest in front of my district office in Mount Airy, and it was around a vote I took around a bill that on the surface looked like it was protecting families and children when in
Mhm.
fact it put them in harm's way.
Mhm.
And regardless of what people think, what wasn't said in the media was we were asked to vote for a MAGA bill. It's a MAGA bill. So why would any black folk, any Democrats, any Philadelphians expect or urge me to vote for any MAGA bill? I've never been asked to vote for a MAGA bill by my constituents, by voters. That's absurd. I'm a progressive Democrat. Why would I vote for a MAGA bill? But I voted no on a MAGA bill. So the journalists didn't say it was a MAGA bill. So now the narrative is that I voted on a bill that would have protected people from child sex trafficking, which is, as a parent, just as a human being, I don't have to be a parent to have a heart, right? Like that's one of the worst vile crimes you can imagine. But there are already laws on the books to protect against human trafficking, whether it's a child or an adult. But I voted.
What was the purpose of this bill in your opinion? What was the real purpose of this bill?
So have you heard of the term virtue signaling?
No.
All right. So virtue signaling is when it's a performative effort to let the public or a particular group of people think that you are on the right side of an issue. So it makes you feel good. It makes you look good when in fact there's no there. It doesn't actually move you towards the thing you claim to support. So this was a virtue signaling bill that was very politicized. So we have, right, in Pennsylvania, the primaries all across the state, not just in Philly, is May 19th. So there are bills that are put up to make people either look good because the bill sounds good or to make someone look bad. It's very cynical. It's a form of virtue signaling through the legislative process. So they'll put up bills to say, oh, this will make me look tough on crime. And I can vote yes on it, even though that bill will not be enacted into law anytime soon. But they can go home and say, hey, guess what? I voted on this bill that cracks down on sex offenders or human traffickers or people who beat up librarians, right? But it doesn't actually do the thing it claims to do. So I voted against the bill that on the surface would go after the worst people in humanity, people who steal or sell their own children into the sex trade, right? Those are awful people. I think we can all agree, right? If you're stealing someone else's baby or putting your own child into sex trafficking, that's about as loathsome thing as a human being can do, right? But they already have laws on the books against that. But this one was cut out just to make it around selling babies into human trafficking, where there's very little evidence that that's a common thing. Regardless, the bill as created would have criminalized, let's say, a Haitian refugee who's here, undocumented, who's about to be deported by ICE. She gives her baby to her sister and pays her sister some money to get baby formula or whatever and care for her child while she figures out if she's being deported. If the bill that passed out of the committee where I voted no on were enacted into law, she would be considered a human trafficker.
So who's reading these bills? I need a copy of this bill so I can read it in its entirety. Because if based on what you're saying, if people were reading the bill properly.
But here's the thing, you asked the right question that the right people didn't ask themselves, which are the journalists, right? And my opponents. I got excoriated by my opponents. Oh my gosh, what he did was indefensible. What's indefensible is not reading the bill. My opponents didn't read the bill. And here's the thing. If they can justify sending someone who's in a custody dispute with the woman who is running from a domestic abuser, and they're afraid that their ex would do harm to their child and gives that child temporarily to someone else while they figure out what they're going to do, they're a human trafficker. So if you claim to stand up for Black women, for vulnerable families, for poor people, how would you in good conscience support this bill? But here's the problem. It's not that bad people voted for this. I'm not suggesting, or dumb people. I'm not suggesting that either. But
Mm-hmm.
this is the problem with politics as we know it right now. It's a
Mm-hmm.
gotcha bill because who wants to look soft
Mm-hmm.
on child human trafficking? Nobody. I don't. But 2 weeks before the election, I got to vote on this bill.
Mm-hmm.
And the political folks are saying, man, you don't want to vote no on this bill because it's going to make you look weak on
Mm-hmm.
child, human trafficking. And I'm like, but if I vote against my conscience and if I vote for a bad MAGA bill, right? This wasn't a Democratic bill. This was a Republican who is anti everything. If I voted yes on that bill, I would have given up my integrity to increase my ability to win tomorrow. And I don't need any job. I don't need any job where I got to give up my integrity. I can get another job. Like this was not on my bucket list. Please understand that. This was not on my I never was one of those people say, I need to be in Congress. I want to be Congress. I'm not nothing if I don't ever get in. I don't need this job. I am simply walking in my purpose. And if the people say we're going with Brother Street or we're going with Sister Stanford, I'm still walking in my purpose because
Mm-hmm.
I know my worth. I know my inheritance. I know my inheritance. I know what I'm supposed to do on this earth, and that's to serve. And we can all serve in so many different ways. And there was no way in the world I was going to vote for this vile bill, even though it looked like it was something that was helping people. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I won't.
There you, Lord, 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 Lord.
You get me all fired up again.
Listen, I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry because people are listening and watching. A young sister says, um, "What is your thoughts around early childhood education?" She's an early childhood educator, and they give so little money. She can barely afford to pay her people. She has to go get all these degrees and accreditation, and
And
she's been
they're
talking
one of
about
the most impoverished members of the
yes,
workforce. Listen. I don't want to hear anybody talking about parenthood and believing in children and all this stuff if you don't acknowledge that childcare workers. You talk about essential workers.
child.
Listen, it is a travesty in the richest country in world history that childcare workers, the ones who care for our babies and prepare them for kindergarten and life in general, are the least paid and the most disrespected and ignored. That is unacceptable to me, which is why I have the strongest living wage for all bill in the entire country. And I didn't even know it when I introduced it. I just thought that I was following suit with other folks in other state legislatures. But we have to make sure that these folks are not just paid better or paid competitively, but paid well. It's not like we don't have the money.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. I believe in a federal job guarantee, which means that if you're able and willing to work, we will find you a job that is a good job. We've done it before. The problem is when the government did it before, like almost 100 years ago during New Deal,
Mhm.
it did not offer as many opportunities for Black folk and people of color and women as it should have because it was a different time and there was not the political will to include everybody. But going forward, imagine if you became a federal worker with all the benefits doing childcare, doing early childhood development work. Why can't we? We created TSA just 25 years ago, Department of Homeland Security, ICE. Look at all the signing bonuses these thugs get for doing nothing to help society. And who's on the exact opposite of that same federal coin? The folks who are providing real value to our society. And you know who are disproportionately represented as civil servants on the federal level? Black women. And they were the first ones fired under Doge and Donald Trump. 300,000 Black women lost their jobs or were furloughed, and they did that purposely because they know how Black women show up, and that made them angry and fearful. And now it's our opportunity to come back when we take back the House of Representatives in January 2027 and show them that we are committed to all of those folks, and particularly those folks closest to the pain, who are full-time workers in the workforce, who are doing God's work, which is helping our babies, getting them ready to be full human beings, wonderful, self-actuating human beings. I cannot express how much I care for child care workers. Oh my goodness.
Mm. How much
I
did your
benefited from
I was just
high
about to
quality
say, how
child
much
care with
did
my
your mother
kids.
play into all of this?
What's that?
How much did your own mother play into all of this? Your care for young children.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a mama's boy. Guilty. Um, uh, but
I
I
did
was.
not know that.
Oh yeah, it's yeah, yeah. I'm a mama's boy, and the some of the most influential people in my life were and are Black women.
Mhm.
Most notably, my mother's mother, who is my biggest political hero, who was a community organizer
Mhm.
and journalist in Baltimore,
Mhm.
and she taught me so much. But my love of children has been kind of emblematic in my life. I always knew I wanted to be a father. That is the thing I'm most proud of. If I don't have anything else, if I don't have anything else, it's being a Black father of two
Mhm.
amazing young men who I just adore. But here's the other thing: they're all my babies.
Yeah.
They're all my babies. And so anytime I have an opportunity to engage young people, um, I was just playing playing at a playground yesterday in West Philly at a canvas launch, and I just, we this is a very anti-child society. My grandmother used to say that all the time. We do not care for our babies the way we should. And I don't mean Black folk, I mean a government and society.
Mhm.
We do not invest in them in the most meaningful ways. And also I want to say that as a man, this issue is very gendered. This is something that we kind of push off on women, like, oh, that's women's work, or this is something that, no, no, for anyone, for all of those men who understand the beauty and power and responsibility of fatherhood and mentorship. This is for all of y'all too, and
Mhm.
for us to speak up and to acknowledge the invisible labor, the emotional labor of women,
Mhm.
and understand that we have a role to play as well as men.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking about I have twin grandchildren, and they call me all the time. And so yesterday, my son was having a conversation with me, and I said something to him, and my youngest granddaughter says, "Grandma, leave daddy alone." And she nuzzled her face up in his face, and just the look on his face, just the look on his face about his children. You are absolutely correct. Men play the same significant role in the lives of their children that we mothers do. And so I thank you for that part of it. And I thank you for expounding on early childhood education and what that means and your values around it. I have one last question. I cannot believe you gave us almost an hour. This is crazy. Everybody
Well,
else have.
look, yeah, I want to be honest. I take this is very meaningful to me because any number of people could have done what you've done over the course of 10 months and had these conversations and raise up the questions of people who are watching and doing all that. But you did. You did. And you didn't have to do that, right? I know you've given opportunity for other candidates to do the
I
same and
did.
such, but you did something that so few people have afforded me, right? And when I'm extended grace and respect,
Let's give it.
I want to give you as much time, as possible to have these conversations, because we don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to cover everything, but this is what it's about. We got to have these conversations and dig in and share and let people make their own informed decisions. I don't need everyone to vote for me. I'm going to serve everyone, whether they like me, whether they voted for me, whether they're able to vote, whether they're citizens, whether they're minors. I'm gonna care for everybody. Like, I believe in radiant love, but you've provided an opportunity for me to share like who I am, why I'm running, why these things matter to me in ways that have not been afforded me in the 10 months I've been running. And I really appreciate that. And I also want to just lift up that independent Black media, which you are the embodiment of, is one of the reasons I'm here, because my great great grandparents founded the Baltimore Afro American newspaper in the 1890s. And it was one of the only vessels, the only means by which Black people could see ourselves reflected in our contributions to society when mainstream media ignored and erased us. So, Black independent media is essential to any progress. And I see I go back to progress moving forward. We can't have real progress if we don't have independent media controlled by us and used for us. And so that's one of the reasons I'm so willing to come back on your show and give you all the time your viewers need. So thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome. Marguerite says, win or not, can you come back on regularly and be a voice on this platform? We're asking you
Yes,
now. Okay, we'll take
that's
it.
not a sacrifice. That's an
Yeah.
honor.
Yes, yes. Thank you. I appreciate it. Now, here's my last question for you. What do you do for rest and relaxation? This has been a long and arduous 10 almost a year. What will you do? What has kept you and given you peace in this process as you're going through all of this?
Well, I like to joke that the things that keep me sane are chocolate and humor. But beyond that, it's, it's my loved ones. I know that there are people
Mhm,
who are my ride or die, who care for me,
mhm,
who knew me before I was ever in office,
mhm,
who just love me unconditionally. And being able to have their embrace means the world to me. So
mhm,
I would say that. I would also say that um, I'm a genealogist. So I get to bathe in the spirit of my ancestors through the research I do as a
mhm,
family historian. That's very
mhm.
moving. I also carve walking sticks. I make walking sticks, and so I whittle, which is kind of an old school, real basic kind of thing. I'm not a expert, but that gives me great joy. I've been doing that for over 20 years. I'll go to the Wissahickon, not far from me here in Northwest, and
I don't even know
uh,
how I never ran into you because, man, I'm up there by that Indian statue hiking, and I've got a great walking stick that I got from West Virginia. I don't know how I've never run into you. It's a
well,
thing.
yeah, it's an amazing gem in our city.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
so yeah,
mhm,
and I'm a member of the oldest Black tennis club in the U.S., founded in 1959, and it's in
mhm,
Germantown,
mhm,
Philadelphia Tennis Club, and I get to
mhm.
commune with folks from the community, and it's largely elders, uh, and that just gives me great joy to play and to recreate in community in a Black neighborhood that has built this great institution that so few people know about.
Yeah. State Rep Chris Rabb, sir, we wish you every bit of everything that will bring you joy and peace in the next 24 hours. I wish that for all the candidates, actually. I
As do
am,
I.
yeah, thank you. I'm especially appreciative that you have created and found the time, and that as a direct result of my interviewing you 2 weeks ago, my phone has not stopped ringing. I wanted to that part. I was like, what the hell? What is going on? Why are y'all
I
calling
said
me?
what I
What's going
said.
on? It was crazy. It was
I'm
crazy.
grown. I
But
said what I said.
but in a good way. People kept saying to me, thank you. All the people they did the same thing for Dr. Ayla. You gave them a platform to have the conversations that is so necessary that goes beyond 10 seconds and 20-second sound bites.
I
You
hate that. Yeah.
your interview, Dr. Ellis, lit up my phone. I was like, people, I'm going to sleep. Goodbye. Don't call me anymore, right? Essence says, yes, we need to support independent Black media. We need Andrea, Urban View, Laura Daniels, and all of them. I've learned so much through these platforms. I am so grateful to you. Thank you so much. I reserve the right to call you back should you prevail or not to come back on this platform. Okay. And I also want to give kudos to your team. Your people
Oh,
have been just top notch, and on all of them have just been
wonderful.
absolutely wonderful. So I need you to know that while you are the face of the franchise is doing the work in a
That's right.
meaningful way. So thank them for me too, please. Okay.
I will, absolutely.
All right. Good luck, sir. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Bye bye. Bye bye. As he logs off, I shit. I was that. That's why. That's why I get up every morning to have these kinds of, I the thing that burns my soul now is that I was never able to have this kind of conversation with State Senator Street before the elections tomorrow. I wanted people to be able to see him the same way. I gave you all the opportunity to see Chris Rabb, State Rep Chris Rabb, Dr. Ayla Stanford, in her brilliance and what she does continue to do, because she has the Center for Equity at the church. She was at Enon yesterday, and oh no, this ninja. Really? Do you know? Do you know what? I can't stand you. Shut up, David Alexander Jenkins. Thank you, Tracy. Tracy says you've done it again, ma'am. Great show. Absolutely. Because the goal, a good interviewer will allow you to show and showcase who you are and to give you the conversation as needed. I am not in no way moved by, tearing people down. And I ask the questions. I swear to you, if you watch the first interview, I asked Chris Rabb everything. Did I not, David?
Everything.
I
And
mean,
where's his? I'm hearing crickets. Crickets. Can I buy a vowel? I just, I just want to say this. I want to say that coming to this place of putting one's name, and I think when you add your name to someone's candidacy and you say this is where I'm going, I want you to know what that means, what it should mean, because you are speaking for your babies. He just talked about that everyone is his baby, right?
yes.
Right. And you are lending your credibility, your honesty, your emotional truth, your sanity
Yeah.
to a voice as a representative. And I want us to remember that we're sending a representative to a place that is filled with people who want him to disappear and shut up and go away so they can continue exercising agenda which is not good for you, which is killing us. So to see someone light up on fire, to be emotional about being a dad,
So
right?
did you see how he got so emotional talking about his?
to to lean in. I mean, I was typing, literally typing, going, what he won't say, and then he said it. And when I think about what it means to be someone who's willing to go into the fire, get burned, and come out holding the baby, right? Who's willing to, and that one question I love that he answered was, it was proof that the people who voted for that terrible bill
Did not
never
read it.
read
I
it.
asked him. I said, "Well, if we're having
Never
this
read
conversation,
it. You're telling me that Sharif Street, as a senator, would get up and make this conversation, but it said he didn't read the bill, or he read it and he didn't care. There's two options. You didn't read the legislation. I got a problem with that if you're going to Congress and you spoke on something you didn't read, or you read it and you didn't give a shit. I have a bigger problem with that. Ayla couldn't read that, right? She was not on the floor.
right?
She
She
had
was
got
not.
to give her a pass there. Even
Yeah.
if she spoke out against it,
Oh,
she didn't
and
understand.
speaking of Dr. Stanford, APAC came out in a written statement and said they gave no money to the third congressional district race.
Which is crap because APAC previously said they gave money to different organizations, which ended up giving money and they couldn't trace it. So no, APAC never gave foundational dollars from APAC directly to anyone in this particular race. But they haven't done it that way in a very long time. They've been giving money to smaller organizations, which then give money to races because they know how unpopular they are. I also like that Chris said, not all PACs are bad. Right, not all PACs are bad. Some of them are your local district 91s. They're this and the other. They're PACs from people who are dealing with environment and creation, whatever else. And I want you to hear me that I cannot. I'm not. There's no crucifixion going on for Dr. Stanford and that. And I will rest easy. But there is a difference between resting easy and feeling inspired.
Let me say this to you. The most dangerous person on earth is the one with purpose.
Mm, and he's walking in the shoes, in the footprints.
Because when you're walking in your purpose, and I'm not speaking to Chris Rabb personally, I'm speaking to people with purpose in general.
Mm.
People will try to shut you down, but your purpose supersedes all the other isms that are going on and floating on around you, right? So, because of purpose, you are not beholden to um, people's thoughts and opinions. You're beholden to what drives you. And if you're, which is why I said this, every time I moderate a conversation with politicals, every time I moderate a conversation in regular spaces, I say, what is your core value?
I'm reminded of that biblical story um, where we go to God on the mountain and we say, "But I'm scared." And he says, "Shut up, go. I didn't ask if you were scared. I didn't ask you what you thought. I just told you to do it. But the people, they're going to crucify me. That's all right. You do it anyway." Right? And we see that in the creation of the Abrahamic faiths. We see that in Moses leading people. We see that in all of these biblical stories of when God says do.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters. And
Yeah.
there was an excitement in that interview that said, I have a purpose, and God said go. And everything else has to go. And that's what makes you uncompromising. When people say uncompromising, it's not that he doesn't go across the table and have conversations, it's that he won't lose morals and morality in order to say yes to something which isn't why he's there. He'll give it up. He'd rather walk away from the table than compromise the thing that you are sending him to represent. That is you. And I'm so tired and so sick of politicians who go into rooms placating the machines in order to benefit themselves, often running over and creating harm for the people that elected them to go to the places where they are supposed to represent them.
I
And what
have to still say this, David. My one regret, I feel like if I had Senator Street, he was the only one that wasn't on here
that was a
that
choice.
would have had that would have had the voice to be able to speak to me the way Dr. Ayla Stanford was able to. She's had several opportunities to be on this platform, and she took them. Chris Rabb had two, and he took them. And it's the only thing.
Okay, but let's settle there. Let's go there because that says something. No response is a response. Amen. And when people make a choice, I'm tired of excuses for everybody. Everybody's got excuse. Even the excuse of when will I come back? Oh, well, I'll come back after the election because I'm scared to death that if I come
No, they
back before,
tried. They looked at it. Stop. Listen, my phone did not stop ringing. Folk were calling. It was not his fault. It was somebody else's fault. And da
it's
da da da.
always somebody else's fault.
Hush, David. I'm trying to be. I am trying to be fair.
You're
I'm
doing too
always going to
much.
be fair.
Blah, blah.
This teacher just tell me I'm doing too much. No, because I wanted to be able to give. I wanted to be able to give the same opportunity that everybody else had. It's the one regret that I
You
have.
can lead a horse to water. You cannot enforce it to drink. And I am tired
Because
of us.
here's the thing. Because I believe this platform helped both Dr. Ayla and Chris Rabb. You
And,
can't
and
tell me it didn't.
and let me tell you something. If you didn't come to the water and drink, whose problem is that? Next girl. It means you're not ready for office. Actually, what it means is, and I said this before, I believe and I trust Sherelle Parker in her judgment that Sharif Street is needed exactly where he is as a help to her for what is happening in Philadelphia politics today. And since he has not resigned his job, I would like him to continue in it. But what I heard today, again
You know what?
reaffirmed.
Marguerite said something. She said, Mr. Street should have asked you for a special afternoon or evening edition. Had they asked, I would have said yes. I would have turned my microphone back on and said, hey.
They did not ask. Please understand this. I want everybody to understand this. Hear me, room. When a political team in this season, paid as much as those girls get paid to be political teams in this season, does not do the work to ensure that somebody is up at a certain time, or they ask for another position, or they come and show up, or they just sit in the room, they don't advise, or they advise against. I want you to believe that there's some advising against. What happens if you get on Mornings with Mother and she asks you questions that you can't answer? Might be better for you not to show up at all. I don't know. I wasn't in that room to have that conversation. What I do know is that I get to vote with all of the information that is before me, as do you. I know that I'm electing someone who's going to go to Washington, D.C. to represent me and my constituents and the neighbors and the people around us, the loved ones that we have. That's who you're supposed to represent. And you're not here to represent the Park administration. You're not here to represent the state's bidding. You're not here to represent whatever. You're here to represent the people of Philadelphia, the neighbors, right? 5 times as many. Is that right? 5 times as many individual citizens. Is that what he said? When we talk about that, and the people who are in Congress who understand that, to have 3 times the combined number of congressional people currently supporting his campaign, he was shocked to have the endorsements because he's never had them before. That is the place that I think we have to have this conversation in. What does that mean when you do the work of the people because you have been unwilling to waver from it?
Yeah. So people are saying that if Streets people had asked for an evening edition and I granted it, they would have watched. They
They
would
always, you can turn your microphone on in the middle of the air at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The people in here, you know it.
And then, even if they don't see it in the moment, they will share it. I've never seen some people like I'm watching
Even
it.
and it was wonderful watching the comments, because one of the wonderful things I like to ask or look for is the question why. Why? And so when it was, well, why does the machine want this particular person? Because the machine sees that person as someone that they can mold, shape, and force into.
By essence, have a good school day, honey. Have a great school day.
So this is
Woo.
the thing. And I if we were in a soft time where life was just jolly and the sunflowers bloomed every day, I would say, oh, Sharif, fine. What's the signature? We are in a time in this country right now where a signature is not the answer. I need someone who can read the bill. I need someone who's going to read it and challenge it. And anybody who gets up to speak against something they did not read, I'm confounded by it.
But I can't believe I was the only person that asked that question. He said I was the only person that asked. I was like, did anybody read the bill? I
They
need to read the
did
bill. I want to
not.
read the bill.
They didn't read it. And if they did, and the only person who could have read it would have been Sharif. He's in government there, right? So he had the ability to read the bill, and he spoke out against what Chris did, right? In this big political moment, it was indefensible. It was awful. How could he do this? He did this. Either you didn't read the bill, or you were okay with what it was going to do to people, so that you could win a vote. That's despicable
When this
or
election is
ignorant.
over, I am deliberately not getting on the air tomorrow. I don't want to talk to any political candidates. I quite frankly won't talk to anybody tomorrow. I'm getting off the air today. I'm around today. But tomorrow, after tomorrow, on Wednesday, I'm coming back here and I'll have quite a bit to say. I have been very thoughtful around not choosing any particular candidate, giving each candidate an opportunity to have the dialogue. Let them mess up or gain votes on their own. That was purposeful. Now my phone is already bling 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 bling. I was like, yo, this is listen. When I saw Chris Rabb's people, they were like, "Can he come back on?" Sure, I told him after the first interview, if you want to come back on, because at that point, by the time Chris Rabb came on, Dr. Ayla had been on 3-4 times. Right? She had gotten the opportunity. She asked. Every time she asked, I created the space for her to be on. It was only twice for him. So what I want people to know is that we tried on this end, my team, we tried. We tried. We tried even when I could have rightfully said, bump that, not doing it again. State Senator Street will be on Friday. I'm going to give him an opportunity, win, lose, or draw, to have the conversation on Friday. But I really want him to address this thing around the machine. I believe that's what people are just, every time I talk to folk out in the street, my ear is like, oh my God, he's a part, the machine, the machine, the machine. Is anyone listening?
No. In fact, the machine is still sending a person to Philadelphia to stop for
Cory
him.
Booker, Lord
Cor- and
Jesus.
the people are like, don't
Lord,
nobody want to hear from Cory Booker.
Lord Jesus.
And
Lord,
we are,
to
and so
my untrained eye
tone deaf,
and ear and heart,
tone
Cory
deaf.
Booker has people, black folk in particular, like, ooh, no.
Tone deaf. Talk about tone deaf. In Philadelphia, tone deaf. Of all the places, Cory Booker is most unpopular in Philadelphia.
You
And
keep
this is
talking
who
to the
you're,
people. You're going to run the show for about 3 minutes. Hold on. You keep talking to the people. Keep talking.
you know, when we talk about what it means to be ears to the ground, to run a political race, I was confounded. I spoke to several people and said, whatever happens, I am really mesmerized by the lack of ability to run a proper race from Sharif's camp, right? So one thing is to say what's going on in current politics, who are people who are favorable, who are people who are maybe not so well liked. And what we saw when the entire mass of city governments came down to the steps of City Hall, we all remember that day, and they got up and they said, here we are, and we're all voting for Sharif Street, Sharif Street, Sharif Street. He lost 16 points almost immediately in the polls. It knocked him down to third. At that point, anybody who's in politics, anybody who's running anything would say, you know what, we need to change the way we're doing things. We need to maybe distance ourselves from the things, or at least speak to them. Why are we upset? What conversation are we having? But we didn't see that. We saw a doubling down. There were conversations and shouting matches happening within the Democratic machine. People who were saying, how could we let this happen? What is going on? Why are we not polling well? Who is running this race? And the truth is, no one was listening to the people.
You did it, David. I'm so proud of you. You
Nobody
did
was
it.
listening
I'm
to the
so
people.
proud.
I'm just listening to the people. You
So
know,
here's the thing that I wonder if most people know this. And thank you for doing that. Um, Are people aware that while folks are running for office, there's polling happening behind the scenes,
we
that
just
groups
talked
of
about that.
people are being polled over and again? Who are you voting for and why would you vote for this person or
Just
why
talked
not?
about that. Yeah.
So Dr. Ayla Stanford knew in the very early on that she was leading in these polls. She was. Right. And she spoke to that. And then, folks were still trying to have the conversation. And I spoke to some friends of mine who are deeply entrenched in the Democratic Party who said, yes, but the block captains, the Senator Street cannot lose this because the block captains are out and they're going to make sure there's a get out to vote. But then again, you got to follow the trail. When we look at the history of voting in the city of Philadelphia, 55% black, maybe 23%, 30 possible come out to vote. The white folks are coming out at 72%, right? The young folks who are turned off by what was going on in the political parties, all of a sudden are now energized. People are asking questions. They were given, folks were given this platform to. Somebody said, "Is that the folk from the P Valley series?" I don't know.
I had better hair. Um,
Wait, and somebody says the same Cory Booker who did not endorse Mandani and as a Democratic nominee because he focuses on Jersey politics. That one?
that
And
one.
then somebody says, I think the person you were communicating with for Street was to purposely to sabotage him. Yeah, that was that. I really think that
Terribly run
person
campaign.
really harmed Street by not having him on here. You know, Whew, it's whew, when I tell you when this is replayed in history, it will be shown that the invitation was extended over and over again. In fact, I was vocal in saying it was Rabb and Street who had not responded. When Rabb's people my God, Elon was like, ma'am, I did not know the person you was reaching out to was fired. All of that. Please, can we make this happen?
That's
Right.
right.
And they've been on it since. Right.
And it's,
Um,
I want to say this. It's just, this is where I want to land my plane. Philadelphia, you have done the work. You've done the work so far. You've gone and you've researched and you've looked at candidates. I've done it with you. I've gone out there blind first and gone out to actually dig in and understand what we're doing because we know where we are in this season in our lives. And tomorrow is where the rubber meets the road.
Mm-hmm.
To do all this work, to dig this far, and to not go vote is a travesty. So I say to you, directly in the camera number two, get out and vote. Take your neighbors with you. Take the people that you know, the young ones who can go. Anybody that today is the day to tell them that their job, their duty, their to be a citizen. I'm always talking about what it means to be a citizen. One of these most majestic things you have as a citizen is this vote, is this voice. Please, please, please exercise it. We cannot afford this time to continue going on as we have gone on before. I need you. I beg you. I implore you to vote.
Yeah. Marguerite says, "Hey y'all, if y'all know Mr. Street's people, have them reach out to him right now and ask him for a late afternoon, early evening edition. I'm home today.
This is,
Listen, tomorrow,
so I'm
no."
a black back in. That's that feeling, Atlanta.
Someone wrote, "Can someone please tell David's face to behave? You came back on here and you were hilarious." Laverne says, "I am never doing mail-in ballots again, especially during this administration." You know, oftentimes people get their mail-in ballots, which is where there is something to be said about walking up into the poll booths and voting, because we see in here up to the very last second.
And let me tell you
This stuff
something.
is
Let me tell you
contained.
something. For those of y'all who are not listening to what's going on in the world, this could very possibly be your last opportunity to make your voice heard.
David, are people aware that right now in our government they're shifting so that we can't vote?
I want you to see what's going on in these southern states and understand it's no joke. You know, we thought the same thing in the North when Jim Crow was creeping up. This is a repeat. Civil rights didn't happen out of nowhere. And I want you to understand that this vote means something. It's not just simply about Chris Rabb, it's also about your ability to vote. You think it's a game, it's not a game, it's not a thing to play with. How you are treated in this very country, in this very space, whether you are seen as a human or not, you are not human under the law. Fifths of the person. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Go out.
And the Voting Rights Act was never put into law. What do we?
Please protect your voice. Please protect your citizenship. So when I say go out to vote, I mean go out to vote. And let me tell you, whoever you vote for, you're my neighbor. But
How
I
about
need you.
that?
You're my neighbor.
How about that?
And I'm saying to you, neighbor, you must vote.
Yeah. Marguerite says, Laverne, that's why I don't do mail-in ballots or absentee ballots. I make sure my schedule is clear on election day. Moment by moment, new information is given and things change. And things change. I wish everyone well tomorrow. The gubernatorial races, all the other races, because you know we're focusing on is this third congressional race in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Laura says we owe it to our ancestors to get out and vote. And if you've learned nothing else in just these last 10 months from this one election, is that to vote is to be informed. You should not sit around and wait for someone to hand you a ballot and say, this is who you vote for. We've said this over and again. That is not the way you vote. You
And what
listen
has
to the
that gotten
people.
you so far?
Oh my God. And show up. There were so many debates all across this city. Right? The Voters' Rights Act was supposed to be voted on as part of the Civil Rights Act. Lyndon B. Johnson broke it up. So all these years later, it's all just.
What are we going to do about it?
Baby.
We're going to vote.
The people in Virginia voted, though, and the Supreme Court turned over the will of the people and said, I'm sorry you voted for this, but no.
Come around my way. Come around here and try that. See if that works in Philadelphia.
Celeste says, my city of Phoenix, Arizona has gone down in the dumps. The enemy has run my city into the dumps since 2004. Every mayor from Phil to Kate has been an enemy stealing votes from Gentiles to get in power. I don't know what that means, but I'm sure I can read between the lines and figure that part out. We have got to be more informed. We've got to be able to say, you don't have to be loud and vociferous. You can quietly say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm sorry, I don't agree with you. Or you don't even have to say anything. Go do something else. You don't have to let people know what you're going to do. Your vote is your privilege. Go in the voting poll and booth and do what makes this thing right for you. But baby, girls and boys, and media has shifted and changed. To Chris Rabb's point, it's people who want to be influencers, and the legacy media, they're getting their hands tapped. The ones who want to actually report the news properly are getting their hands tapped and says, you can't interview that one, because they're controlled by other people. So you can't do this and you can't do that. It's a lot, and we have to be mindful when we're interviewing that we don't make it personal about us, the interviewers. Oh, well, you did so and so back in such and such and such, and it offended me, or what? No, you're to ask the questions on behalf of the constituents, not about your own personal feelings and thoughts. It's a whole lot going on. It's a whole lot going on. Marguerite says, if you have already voted, still share what you've learned on this platform. People believe in you to make their decisions. Absolutely.
She's talking to you, Andrea. She's
No, she's
talking.
not talking to me.
She's talking to you too.
I will share my thoughts on Wednesday. Oh, I got lots to say.
Oh, we can't wait.
But what I will not do is influence this diggity dang election. Not because nope, not even trying.
I have to tell you, it is. I was raised in a family in which one was ought to come by. That is to say, you do not tick the box. You go vote. You don't tick the box publicly because it's improper to have an opinion. So for me to come out this strongly in this particular race is because of what this means right now for America, where we are going, what we've been through, what we will see. And I have spent the last 2 years with you, Andrea, on this platform saying, here is what is coming. And today I'm telling you, here is what is coming if you
All
do
right.
not go out
All
and
right.
vote.
So here's the other thing. Let me say this.
Mm.
We have to stop voting for people because they're Black and they look like us. We have to stop voting for thin-skinned people who cannot take an ounce of criticism but wants to lead in the highest places and spaces. If I am reporting the news and you don't like what I report because it didn't say something nice about you in the news that I reported, you don't show your behind by turning up your tail and walking away when you see me coming another direction. It tells me that your core values are not firmly in place. In order to lead, you have to be in a space of humility. You have to understand that it comes with a hell of a lot of criticism. And you don't get a pass simply because you're leading and people are coming against you because you're Black.
Or a woman. Or the anointed. Right? And I want us to hear that in that tone.
And
We're
there are two
voting
Black people having this conversation with you.
about free Black people.
We want you to choose excellence in our Black leaders at all times.
People who are fighting for
Who are
you,
willing to stand up against
for
whatever
you,
the thing is in front of them, right?
even to their own detriment, for
Especially to their own
you.
detriment.
Right.
And so one day somebody is going to click with somebody when I say, what is it that makes you tick? Who are you beyond this thing that you're running for? Because your story about who you are, how you grew up, what your core values are, what makes you tick and move will certainly be the lead in how you lead people or not. So I get it. If you don't want to come on this platform, because, and there's some folks that are leaders that everybody's inviting to come to the platform. I haven't. I know they're probably going, oh shit, she's not inviting me. Excuse me for cussing. She's not invited because I don't want the same old verbiage, the same old business as usual. People are suffering and dying. You heard me talk about those two boys who were hungry outside of the Aldi. You heard me talking about the pastor and his wife with 5 things in the basket and it's $100. Yo, can we please get outside of ourselves and realize that we're in a time in this country that we don't have time to coddle mediocrity and we don't have time to coddle feelings. Lives are at stake here. Now Ebola is making a comeback. Every
No,
6
no,
years,
no, 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 no. Let's correct that. Not lives. Your life is at
child,
stake here. Because we do that. We other people's. It's not me. It's no. It's me. I just said last week I gave a speech on the floor that said, I am the problem and the solution. I am the bridge and the gate. Right? I am that I saith I am because I am saith I am that I am. You are. It is you who are the problem and the solution. It is you who are being threatened. It is you who is under attack. And now you have to elect a representative to go before the machine and fix it.
and so when we say support us, support independent Black media, when I ask you to go to Substack and pay the $8 a month or $80 a year, it's not because I need to be able to pay folk to continue to do this work. I am getting no special money, no special interest, anything. Please, please, please go and support. Find us A Lawful Truth. Find us on Substack and support us by paying the $80 a month. I'm sorry, $80 a year. It's $80 a year to make sure that we can continue to do the work that we're doing. Because even if I have to do this by my own some lonesome, we're going to continue to have this conversation. It is the responsible thing to do. I'm tired of us sitting here going, well, what can we do? And I'm watching it all unfold in social media, David, every day. You come on every Monday and we talk about the things that are going on in the world. You give us chapter and verse on where to research, where to find the laws, where to find the this, where to find the that. You give us the history.
And
That's
burn it. Let me tell you, and
purposeful.
burn them up. Because they get upset with me when I finish. They call me and if how dare you? How dare you? You know what I'm talking about. How dare. Well, no, we know. No, the job is
Oh
to
my God.
care.
Oh my
Do
God.
no harm and to care. If you do those two things, you walk through life beautifully.
Absolutely. To do no harm and to care. You're absolutely correct. And if you find yourself always wanting to be seen in the room and in pictures where you compromise yourself to get into those rooms because you're not going to say certain things or do certain things, that speaks a lot about you
Or
too.
when you put your agenda before the agenda of the people, you mustn't ever, you mustn't ever. Your job is to represent the people, but not to tell the people what they need. They'll tell you what they need. Your job is to make it happen.
Yeah. Joanne Kemp says, even children are raised to know everyone won't alike or agree with you. It should not take away your integrity.
Integrity matters. So I say this to say, go out, vote, get off this thing, go outside, go tell your neighbors what you heard today, share, poke, like, scream,
Yeah,
tell the world about
I'm
this.
about to share snippets from
Tell the
all of
world
this.
about this.
Marguerite says, "Thank you, Andrea, for staying on and having today's conversation." Go Husada. I know. All I'm going to do is call copy. Well, they're back. They're in school now because they were calling me and I couldn't answer. But I'm gonna make some brown stew chicken and go on about my business.
Yes.
I love you all dearly. I'll see you on Wednesday. May the force be with all of you. Get your ass out and vote. Don't sit at home and
Hey,
lurk. Go out and vote.
vote.
David, I love you, darling. Love you dearly. I'll see you soon, okay? All right, my darlings. This episode, y'all, of Mornings with Mother is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you.